I don't know where I am or what day it is. Okay.
Did I throw you?
No.
Okay.
No. My internal calendar.
Oh, I
doesn't have-
like your coffee cup.
Thank you.
Who is that?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, that's Elizabeth Taylor?
During those fat years when she was on Broadway. And
Oh, yes.
Little Foxes and sat behind a couch the whole time. Hi, and welcome to Talkin with Taylor, and today I am here with one of the stars of the iconic musical comedy review Forbidden Broadway, Miss Valerie Fagan.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you with us here today. You've seen such an illustrious career that's taken you not only to the Great White Way, but really around the world.
Yeah, Singapore.
That's so exciting. So before we dive into this really incredible career of yours, let's talk about your Kansas City connection.
Okay.
You're a local girl.
I am. Overland Park, Kansas.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. And you graduated from...
Shawnee Mission West.
Oh,
I won't
that's
say what year.
And I hear there is kind of a connection between you and another famous Kansas Cityan, Paul Rudd.
Yes, and do you know Stasha Case? She's a local
Oh, okay.
actress.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
Stasha and I have done shows together. And Paul Rudd, I was his teacher.
Oh my
a
gosh.
student teacher.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I went to UMKC. So.
Oh, yeah, you graduated from UMKC with a theater degree.
Theater ed.
Theater.
My mom made me get a theater ed degree. She said, you're going to use it someday, and I probably will, you know.
Right, so you always have that to fall back on. Right?
Exactly. I need to fall back eventually
right.
when I'm 78.
Right, just in case.
Exactly.
So, being from Kansas City, did you ever come to Starlight?
All the time. I was just talking to Barb, and this place was the best place to perform in Kansas City. So, you know, I was so excited when I finally walked on the stage. I was saying this was as exciting as walking on a New York Broadway stage, because growing up, that was the pinnacle. When you got on Starlight, you know, the Starlight stage, that was it. And I saw Angela Lansbury here and Gypsy. I saw Robert Goulet, who I performed with later on, which is exciting. So I saw a lot of people here that I actually performed with later on. Cheetah Rivera.
Oh, wow.
So, I love Starlight.
Oh, that's so
Now, when I used to come to Starlight, there used to be, you could hear the animals barking in the background. Does that still happen?
Sometimes.
Like the seals?
Yep.
I love that.
You get a little crossover from the zoo.
I hope we won't get that. You know, this week we promise no seals.
No, we won't, because we're all indoors.
Exactly.
So it's all closed up tight. So when exactly did you leave Kansas City and move to the big city, and why?
And why? Why did you leave?
Why would you leave Kansas City?
It was kind of a gradual thing. I wrote the show called Six Women with Brain Death, which was at the Unicorn Theater, and it went all over the country. It was in San Diego, it was in Canada, and it eventually went to New York off Broadway, and I went with it. And it took a while for me to get the courage to move to New York, because it was just so daunting for a girl from the Midwest, you know, and it was a culture shock at first, you know. And then when I stayed for 23 years. Now, I was planning on staying for like maybe 1 or 2, but I just kept on getting shows, and it was like, all right.
It's like a little bit longer, a little bit
longer. But people told me in New York, they said, you just don't seem like a New Yorker. So when I came back home to Kansas, I was like, I'm back. I'm a Midwestern girl.
You always had that Midwestern root
thing
following you around. Right?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
So when did Forbidden Broadway come into your life?
Well, it was, I was doing shows where I said I would either cry or die. Like I was playing Evita, and I was playing these serious shows, you know. And then suddenly I got a call to do Forbidden Broadway auditions in New York, and they were looking for new people. And I didn't even know if I could do comedy. You know, I can't believe it now, because I've been doing it for 10 years, and it seems like that's the only thing I do is comedy.
Right.
So I had an audition, and they said, do you know how to do impersonations? Because this show is all about impersonations. And I said, no. And so the boys showed me how to do the impersonations. I said, you do it, and I'll do it after you do it. So it took me, I'd say, a good 5 years to learn how to really do this show well. You know, I probably shouldn't say that, but by the time people come see this, I know what I'm doing. So 10 years later.
It is perfect now.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I do Ethel Merman, of course.
Oh, of course.
You know, I do Ethel Merman. I do, let's see, Sarah Brightman. Do you know who Sarah Brightman is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do it with bunny teeth. I do an Over the Hill Annie where I'm smoking a cigarette. You know, it's funny. It's a lot like Saturday Night Live with music.
Yeah. All that wonderful sketch comedy. And
it's sketch comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do 16 characters in this show with fast changes.
How do you keep all of that straight?
We always say Velcro, but there are a couple times though when you'll be dressed for a completely different scene, and you'll come on stage and you'll be, oh no, I'm dressed as Annie, but I was supposed to be Mary Poppins.
Right.
So we have somebody back there that tells us, all right, put this costume on.
This is who you are now.
This is who you are now.
Right. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So I was reading kind of into the lore of Forbidden Broadway and kind of all these famous, really legendary names that kind of would sneak in and kind of see themselves parodied, kind of like Carol Channing.
I met Carol Channing, and she's a lot smaller than you think. You think Carol Channing is this this iconic 6-foot-tall woman, and she's dainty and small. But of course, everyone's dainty and small to me. So she's a small woman. And I've met Stephen Sondheim. I've met Leah Michele. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
I had to be Leah Michele in one of our openings. And so I met Leah Michele, and she's like a teeny little girl, and here I am like, hi, I'm playing you in Forbidden Broadway. I played, I'm trying to think, Jersey Boys. I played him in Jersey Boys.
Funny.
And that was hilarious.
Well, Jersey Boys was here just last season.
Really? I love Jersey Boys.
Well,
if you get the CD, I'm him on the CD.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah. What is his name? I feel bad that I'm forgetting his name. I'm sure somebody's watching like...
Somebody will fill us in. Sure.
Yes, they will.
Frankie Valli.
No, it's not the guy that played it on Broadway, though. Oh well.
Somebody will fill us
They're going to want my Broadway card back now. It's like I forgot who played it on Broadway. So yeah.
So how did those legends feel about all the parody of themselves?
Well, sometimes I would check to see, especially if they were younger girls that I was parodying, I didn't want to hurt their feelings,
Sure.
and you have to have a pretty thick skin to do Forbidden Broadway. And that was another reason why at first I thought, I wonder if I can do this because I'm a nice person, But then when I noticed they liked being made fun of, it was kind of the in thing in New York to come and see yourself parodied.
Right.
It's so ridiculous.
Right.
It's so ridiculous.
As long as, I think it's Joan Rivers, doesn't Joan Rivers say, as long as you're in on the joke and you get the joke, then
but
I
check sometimes. I'd watch them. Are they smiling? And they'd be smiling.
Did they leave?
Did they leave? Did they throw something at me?
Right. What hit me right now?
Exactly.
That's funny. So let's talk about when you were on Broadway in The Addams Family opposite Nathan Lane and Bebe Neuwirth.
Yep.
What an experience. So tell me about it.
It was so exciting the first time, because when you're a little kid, you always think about Broadway is what I want to do with my life. Maybe not you or a doctor, but that's what I thought. It's like I have to be on Broadway, and so when I finally had my first Broadway experience, and have you seen The Addams Family?
I had.
Okay, well we had this gigantic gate that was a steel gate that would open slowly, and it opened slowly. I was playing Grandma, and the audience started screaming, and my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it squeaking in my chest. I heard squeak, squeak, and my sister was in the audience, and she was grabbing a friend's hand, and it was one of those surreal experiences where you think, I can't believe I'm dreaming. Am I dreaming this? Is it really happening? And it was wonderful. I have a lot of funny stories behind it.
Anyone you want to share?
I'm trying to think. Well, I was the first cover for Grandma, and do you know who Carolee Carmela is?
Yeah.
And Alice.
Yeah.
Okay. When I went to the audition and I saw the piece of paper, they said, we want you to also be a swing. And I thought, I am in my 40s. I can't be a swing, because swings are usually they're your age, and they're dancers. And I thought this is something I can't do. But they basically said, if you want this job, you're going to have to learn how to dance. You're going to have to learn how to cover 13 roles in the show.
Gosh.
So sometimes I would go on in a matinee as Grandma, do Alice at night. The next day I would play another person in the ensemble. So I was doing 14 characters in that show, and it was. The first time I went on in Chicago as a non-dancer, I'm trying to think of some funny stories. They had me in a bell skirt, and I had to come out. This is a Carol Burnett moment.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to come out of a box in like a 3 count, like 1, 2, 3, and then we were all supposed to dance the set off. Well, I got stuck on the door and pulled the door off the hinges in front of the audience. And BB Newirth, I will never forget. She was just looking at me like, "Who is this person?" So it was, oh my gosh, it was the most exciting time of my life, the scariest time. And when I finally won over BB and Nathan in our scenes, when I got them to laugh in the scenes, and when I could see that they were welcoming me into their elite group, I felt like I'd conquered something, you know. And again, it was comedy. But I was more right for Grandma and Alice than a size 2 dancer, you know. But
But all those Forbidden Broadway characters had to.
Well, that's why they did it. They were like, "She does Forbidden Broadway. She can do this job."
She can do it all.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
So it was wonderful.
I bet.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of from southern Missouri and rural area, lots of country music fans.
Which I love. I played Patsy Cline.
That's exactly what I want to ask you about. So it's like I saw this in your bio, and I was so excited to hear about this. What a role to play.
So iconic. You know, I didn't know who Patsy Cline was when they asked me to play her. I didn't know. My mom listened to her. You grew up listening to Patsy Cline. And again, she's such a crossover artist because she's not country. She's more of a, what would you call her? Like a torch singing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she was of a whole new world.
She
Nobody
broke
knew what
a
she
lot
was.
of ground.
Yeah.
So at first I didn't think I could do her because I thought, well, I'm a Broadway singer. I'm not a country singer.
Well, it's such a unique voice. Too.
Oh, it's so deep and rich and low. And so when I finally started listening to the music and getting into who she was, and she had a hard life, you know, and you could hear it in her music. It was awakening for me because now I play the banjo, I play the guitar, and I love country music.
Wow.
So all of these things, these interesting things have happened to me. That's why I tell women, never cut yourself short if you're in your 40s or even 50s. You can do anything because all the things I've done in my life have been 45 plus.
Wow.
So learning how to dance, learning how to play the banjo, singing Patsy Cline. So it's really, I'd say, 45 plus everything. I'm aging myself, but this is HD TV. People will be like, well, of course. You can do anything at any age, and who would have thought at 45 plus that I would be like suddenly doing the most exciting things in my life, being on Broadway, doing Patsy Cline. It's been wonderful.
It's never too late to realize those dreams.
Exactly, and that's
so
why
wonderful.
also with Forbidden Broadway, it's a really great show for women to have, to bring their other gal friends and come see the show because it's such we just need to laugh right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a time when we all need to laugh, and
absolutely.
you will laugh at Forbidden Broadway.
That's so great. Well, I hope that that's what people take away from it. I hope that they come and they can really escape.
Oh yeah, and I heard that you can drink and eat, which is great.
Eat. Yeah, well, talking about eating, so I am the ultimate foodie.
So am I.
And in Kansas City, what else do we love to do but eat?
Barbecue.
Barbecue. So,
exactly.
So what are some of your favorite KC haunts? What do you like to eat in Kansas City?
Do you know where Sneed's is? Sneed's Barbecue?
Yeah.
That's my favorite barbecue.
Okay.
That's where I grew up on Sneed's.
Go.
Is that at like a 179th and Holmes, I think?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they have the best coleslaw.
Oh, that's
Makes me want some now. But we have 2 more TV gigs, so I promised myself, Val, after Wednesday, you can eat whatever you want to eat.
There you go. That's perfect.
My goal was to lose like 20 pounds before we did the show, but
Well, exactly. And so then it's like it's your treat once it's
Sneed's. There's going to be, coleslaw, M&Ms.
Of course.
Of
course. So was there ever a New York equivalent? Was there ever?
Yeah, there was a
Anything that
place
came
called
close?
Shake Shack. Do you know where that is?
Yep.
It was right across from the Flatiron Building.
Yep, that's dangerous stuff.
Very dangerous. A friend of mine, we were walking down there, and there was this incredibly long line. I was like, what are they doing? And those are the best burgers in New York City.
Yeah, I think now you can log in online and see how long the line is.
Can you really?
Yeah, and so you know when to rush down there and get in line.
Wow. Well, see, you know what you know.
Yeah,
I'll call you up and say, hey, is the line short? Let's go get some hamburgers.
Let's go. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. One last question I really want to ask you. So anytime I talk to actors or musicians, they all seem to have a really full circle moment. And it sounds like, and maybe Patsy Cline is kind of the end to that full circle moment as you came from kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Very much so.
You've come
Went
back
to
home.
Oz, came back
and
home,
you've come
and-
home to Kansas. I mean,
Yeah.
what a wonderful story. So tell me about that.
Coming back home?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people say, do you miss New York? And I really don't. You know, because when I got off the plane in Kansas, you don't appreciate the things like breathing clean air. I ride my bike in Shawnee Mission Park, you know, and I love the nature. Of course, my parents are here. So one of the main reasons I came back home was to help take care of my parents, you know. And just there's so many things in Kansas that growing up I didn't see, but when you've been in New York, I mean, when I was on Broadway, there were 3 months, I remember this, where I didn't see the sky.
Oh,
Can you
wow.
imagine just not
No.
seeing the
Oh, my
sky?
gosh.
And I'm such a nature person. I like to camp and I like to be outside. So coming back home has been so right. You know, even though I was 23 years in New York City, you know. So now I kind of feel like I'm a little bit of both. I have got half my life in New York and half my life in Kansas, you know.
I love it. Well, there's no place like home.
There's no place like home. That's a good way to end this.
Right. Well, Val, thank you so much for being here with me today on the first episode of Talkin' with Taylor. What a perfect first guest to have.
It's wonderful.
Come see Val,
Forbidden Broadway.
Forbidden Broadway, this wonderful musical comedy review here at Starlight Indoors, Tuesday, January 30th through February 4th. That's Sunday. This is all 1 week. Come and see Val. It will be wonderful. Get your tickets online at kcstarlight.com and follow us on social media and catch everything there is new about Starlight Indoors. Thank you again, Val.
Thank you.